On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, what did we learn from round one and what translates to round two for the Thunder?
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, me member, and Inside the Thunder beat writer Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO ThunderPod. And on today's show, we're joined by Oklahoman columnist, former Thunder beat writer, now columnist, Joe Mado at Joe_Mado on Twitter. You can find all of his work on the Oklahoman. Joe, what a time this is. The Thunder sweep the New Orleans Pelicans and head to the second round for the first time since 2016. What were you doing in 2016, Joe?
2016, I was a senior in college at the University of Oklahoma. And now here I am talking to Rylan Stiles on Locked On Thunder.
Wow. Well, I mean, I'm sure you had a much better time on campus than at Locked On Thunder, but we'll try to make it up to you here on Locked On Thunder. Today's show is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Joe, I have a competitive side to me, as you well know, and I'm a big fan of Monopoly Go. It's a mobile hit twist on the classic Monopoly game. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now for free on the App Store or Google Play Store. A really good way to connect with your college friends, Joe. If you've lost touch, just play a few games of Monopoly Go. But when you saw the Thunder officially swept the Pelicans, closed it out in 4, your immediate thought was what?
My immediate thought was that was a very professional series from a Thunder team that had no playoff experience together up until that point. So I thought it was encouraging. I don't know if it told us anything about the future, but I thought they looked a little nervy in game 1. It's a game they could have given away. Aside from that, even when they didn't play great in game 4, it's like they still gutted out a win on the road. I think, anytime you pick up a sweep, that's impressive. And now they are reaping the benefits of that because they're off for what's going to be more than a week, which is crazy, as they watch, Luka, how's his knee feel? The Clippers without Kawhi. Like these two teams battle it out in a series that maybe ends in 6 games. Who knows? Could go 7. So the Thunder are sitting mighty pretty right now.
Do you feel like you've learned anything from this Thunder team in round 1?
Rylan, because you were so kind to share something I wrote about sweeps. Do you mind if I get into that real quick?
Dive on in, Joe.
Dive on in. Because I don't know if I learned anything about the team. I think it was confirmation that, okay, the moment, at least through round 1, isn't going to be too big for Chet Holmgren, for Jalen Williams. We knew Lu Dort lives for this kind of stuff. We knew Shai was going to be fine, and I think there's another level to playoff Shai. But so from like a team context standpoint, I don't know if I learned a lot. From a historical context, I was interested in seeing, okay, what does a first round sweep mean? What can we learn from history about teams that sweep in the first round? So since the playoffs expanded in the first round to a 7-game series in 2003, there's been 34 sweeps. 15 of those teams made it to the NBA Finals. That's 44%. So it's a little less than a coin flip that you make it to the NBA Finals. Now, there was 2 in the West this year, obviously, with Minnesota and Oklahoma City. Only one of those teams, and perhaps neither of them make it to the finals. But sweeps do indicate some level of dominance, and I think it makes sense. I mean, 5 of those teams went on to win the NBA Finals. A number 1 seed that swept their first round opponent has never lost in round 2. So I'd like to say no pressure to the Thunder, but they certainly don't know that number, or the players don't care about it, because what does it mean? Nothing. But if you're the 1 seed, you sweep round 1, you're going to win round 2. History tells us.
History does tell us that. History also tells us a lot about game 5s, which we're going to get into coming up. But I think in this first round, the thing that, I think we can take away is that the Thunder yet again pass another test, because the last couple of years, we've all been trying to maybe put a ceiling on the team or wait for the other shoe to drop, or just kind of be cautiously optimistic, but understand that this is not common. And what the Thunder are doing still after sweeping the first round is not common. For as great as the Thunder have been in their franchise history, they only have 2 sweeps now under their belt. But I think that it just shows that it's another tangible example of this uncommon maturity, that they can handle the big stage, they can handle the moment. And I think that I know it was the Pelicans without Zion, and they don't have a playmaker, and Brandon Ingram, was just shut down by Lou Dort, because Lou Dort's the perfect prototype to get under and defend a guy like Brandon Ingram. But that defense is going to travel, and that defense is going to be a calling card for them this entire playoffs, and it's going to result in whoever you play next and beyond scoring over 92 points. Clearly, that part was an anomaly, but the Thunder are able to hang in these games. In game 1, when they were missing wide open threes, in game 4, when they just were not playing good offense, in game 3, whenever they were clunky at the beginning, the defense lets you hang around, stay in the game, stay competitive, and then eventually you have guys like Shai, you have guys like J-Dub, you have guys like Chet who are going to make shots and are going to come around offensively. And if you just hang around till the final stages, as you did in game 1, Shai gets an and one, and you win the game because you can get the and one from Shai and you can play good defense on the other end. That kind of stuff is what separates teams, especially in the playoffs, and especially as you get further into the playoffs. So I think that defense is something that should really encourage Thunder fans. And I wonder, Joe, after seeing them play, granted only 4 games, and granted against a not a great team because of injuries, has your expectations at all, or feelings of how far they can get, changed at all?
I mean, maybe there's a tinge more confidence in the team. I thought, going into, I thought they would win round 1. I had them in 6 though, so they blew past that expectation. I picked the Mavs to win their first round series, and I picked the Thunder over the Mavs. So this is a team where I kind of came in thinking, I think they're going to get to the Western Conference Finals, as crazy as it sounds. I'm not sure that one series changes my thoughts any on their ability to beat Denver. I think that, the Nuggets are still a load, and I think they're going to beat the Timberwolves and go to the NBA Finals. But some of the, I think you really hit it there, because we knew from a numbers perspective, everything the math told us, that 82 games told us the Thunder are a lot better than the Pelicans, and they proved that. But it's like the softer stuff, the intangibles, the human element, we've never seen it before. How are they going to respond? And they passed that test. And, we're still going to talk about how young the Thunder are, how inexperienced they are. But it's like, I don't know. Maybe they should have not swept the Pelicans, because they just got the fewest games of experience they could. And I say that in jest, because it's like, clearly they're ready. They only needed 4 games to get past their first round opponent. So I think that stuff is going to become less of a concern or a talking point, because this team is just flat out good. Like, we come up with reasons why they might not advance, and the youth has been the biggest one. And through round 1, it was a non-issue, I'd say.
Yeah, it was a non-issue, and the youth is the biggest one. And it's a little bit unfair in a way, because if you watch this team all year long, you understand that their youth has not cost them a bit. But also, even if you want to try to, use the historical data, young teams also typically are not 57-win teams in the West. Like usually they're not. So usually those numbers are skewed because the young teams are purposefully trying to lose, or just designed to lose, or whatever the case is. So that hurts them in a way too. But if you list out the flaws of every team, the Thunder have 2, and that's inexperience and rebounding. Every other team has at least 2 or more. So the Thunder are, for sure, in my eyes, contenders to move forward after sweeping the Pelicans in 4 games. Joe, I think that the most encouraging part too, besides the defense, is that in game 2, they for sure they would have beaten anybody in game 2. They had their A game. Everything was falling for them. But other than game 2, I don't think that they ever played their best style of basketball. I think that they just were able to find ways to win. And showing that you can, find ways to win is a big deal. But also, throughout the 82-game season, we've seen them be a top 5 offense, top 5 defense. So I'm not going to let a 4-game sample size, deter that. I think that they'll eventually, find their rhythm again offensively and then play better and have their A game. And so I think that when you look at the series, it was a weird 4-game series where it never felt like, besides game 2, that they were just on it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because it sort of showed us a different side of the Thunder. I mean, this was such an elite offensive team. I mean, really elite on both ends of the floor. But I think the playoffs does force you to win in different ways. I mean, we saw the Thunder, even in game 1, it was 94-92. That was the Thunder had only played like one game where they scored less than 100 points. I mean, it just was unheard of. And then we saw the whole series, for the most part, be low scoring. We certainly saw that again in game 4. And we're used to the Thunder playing fast and everything looks smooth. And, Shai's getting to his spots. And the Pelicans, I thought they did a good job defensively of mucking things up for the Thunder. But the Thunder overcame that and still got a sweep, even though it wasn't like the most open and shut sweep we've ever seen. It was just like, they game 2, like you said, was a runaway, and they just had enough in the other game. So I don't know. It was really impressive because like we are seeing that, okay, they're not just like, not everything has to click for this team to win. I mean, we knew that from the regular season, but now we have a small sample in the playoffs that proves that as well.
Well, let's go into a pivotal game 5 that was decided on Wednesday and some questions around this Thunder team as you head into round number 2 coming up. But first, I want to say right now, but good friends over at at Monopoly Go. Joe, Monopoly Go is awesome. And we both have a bit of a competitive edge to us, Joey. We all want to do our very best and be competitive whenever we're doing anything, whether it's podcasting, writing, or playing basketball, or playing Monopoly Go. And Joe, I don't know about you, but I love Monopoly in general. But it's very tough to, of course, play a full game of Monopoly, how long it takes, and get everybody in the same room for a full game. So Monopoly Go is the perfect balance. It's a mobile twist on the classic Monopoly game. It's a new and exciting way to play every single day, and you can play it in a versatile of ways. It's the Thunder of mobile games. You can play it with your friends and work together to get these timed event tournaments, or you can try to destroy your friends and like destroy their cities, bankrupt them, pull off bank heists, and more. So it's a lot of fun. Discover Monopoly Go on the App Store or Google Play Store. Go download it now for free and get your game on. I'm already level 1,000, Joey, and I'm really cooking on Monopoly Go.
You've got such a knack for these ad reads. Maybe when we're driving down to Dallas, we can play some Monopoly Go.
We'll certainly be playing Monopoly Go, Joe. I'm telling you that right now. Monopoly Go, free on the App Store, Google Play Store. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day, here with Joe Mado. How are you doing today, Joe? We're talking Thunder basketball. Find him on the Dream Team Pod on the Oklahoman, and just in life. If you can ever find Joe in life, you'll really enjoy it.
Find me in life. Track me down. That sounds
track
ominous.
Him down. I'm track him down in a positive way. You see him at the old Aldi. I think that Joey would be a guy that shops at Aldi. See him at the old Aldi, and you put a quarter in his cart and get it to him for free. Joe.
Oh boy.
The Mavericks won a pivotal game 5, Joe. Pivotal. I mean, it's a swing game, they say. And now they have 2 shots to close out this series with Luka. Game 6 at home, game 7 on the road, where the road teams have played better in this series. Are we heading to Dallas, Joe?
I think we're heading to Dallas. That was a big-time win from the Mavs last night, and I think it was especially helpful that they got to rest Luka down the stretch because the game was so out of hand. And to me, he didn't look that limited. I mean, he was being more of a distributor early on. I think Kyrie was handling most of the offensive load. But then Luka got going. You could, if you thought he was a step slow, it was on the defensive end where he has shown more buy-in this year. But Again, I keep mentioning Luka and his knee injury because the longer the series goes, the more he plays. I think that benefits the Thunder. But this set up really well for them to win a Game 5 on the road, come back home for a Game 6. This is, sure, they could go back and beat the Clippers in LA for Game 7, but this is a game like you got to get if you're Dallas, just to close this one out at home. At least that's the way I see it.
That's the way I see it as well. And I will go ahead and allow us to preview a Mavericks Thunder series. And if the Clippers come back, I'll force you to come back for a little preview segment.
Yeah, just give me a call.
Oh, I'll call you up, Joey. I'll give you a little ring. Give you a little ringy ring. What are your initial thoughts just when the Mavericks officially blew that game out and it was trending this way? Were there any sort of storylines? Were there any sort of just keys to a series that jumped out at you?
Well, storylines that won't impact the game. I would love if it's Dallas, because I think that we're always talking about who's going to be the next rivalry, and I think Dallas makes the most sense. It's a short drive down I-35. You've got Luka and Shai, two of the best stars in our game. So I think that would be very, very fun. From a matchup standpoint, I think obviously defending Luka is a team defensive task, but as far as a one-on-one matchup, Luka himself said it last October that Lou Dort's a top 3 defender in the NBA. I think Brandon Ingram would probably have Dort number 1 on his list after that first round series, but I like that matchup. However, very small sample size, because Luka and Kyrie only played 1 game together against the Thunder this year. And the Mavericks won that game by 35 points. It was a blowout. And both Luka and Kyrie, they played 2 games against the Thunder, only 1 together. They both put up huge numbers. I don't know how much you want to read into the season series, but like I bring up that I think it was 146 to 111 or whatever. Before you get too high on the old high horse. High on the old high horse, whatever you want to say.
High on the hog.
High on the hog. High on insert animal here. I think that's a cautionary tale, at least to remember that, when the Mavs were at full strength for that one game, and the Thunder was also at full strength, the Mavs got the best of the Thunder and got the best of them by a lot.
Yeah, the afternoon boogeyman that was in the stretch too of Josh Giddey just not playing well. That's like kind of the peak of Josh Giddey's discourse. Speaking of Josh Giddey, what do you make of Josh Giddey's postseason? We knew that he plays well in New Orleans every single time he's there, and it's interesting because he feels like a guy who's a playoff riser because he does play better in big games. Ironically, though, all the big games have been against New Orleans, and so it's like, well, is that a New Orleans thing? Is that a playoff thing? And then you have the sample size since March 1st, where he's been really, really, really good. But I look at Josh Giddey, and I think that he really has improved. I think that the March 1st sample size is a real one because it is stuff that's very repeatable, that is not, shooting the 3 ball at a 42% clip, which is just, way too tall of an ask for almost anyone in the league to do. He's not been shooting the ball just crazy from 3. He's been shooting the ball at a repeatable level, besides for a game in Milwaukee and a game in New Orleans, but it's been getting to the rim, finishing there at a career high clip at 69% at the rim, shooting well in the mid-range, and of course, just finding his overall groove whenever he is in charge of initiating things off of rebounding, which he's been better at getting active and mixing it up down there and playing team defense. So with all of that being said, when I look at Josh Giddey, I think that two things can be true. I think that 1, he's truly improved, and 2, specifically against Dallas, his series might need a lot of context, because if you recall their last meeting on TNT without Luka, Josh Giddey played well in the first half. Like he played a good basketball game in the first half. The only adjustment Jason Kidd could make was, even though Josh is playing well, stay in the restricted area while Josh is in the corner and force him to be a corner shooter, just sit in the corner and shoot threes, which is unfair to Josh. That's not his skill set. That's not what you had in mind whenever you drafted him or developed him or anything else. So even as Josh is playing well, Jason Kidd has shown that he will just live with whatever happens with Josh in the corner. And at that point, it messes with the offensive flow. And it's no, knock on Josh that maybe he gets played off the floor a little bit in Dallas. It's more a testament to how good this team is, because of all the options that the Thunder have offensively with Chet and J-Dub and SGA and Lu Dort's shooting efficiency, like of all the options they have, you've got to pick somebody to play off of. And I think that Jason Kidd has shown, be it a one-game sample size, that even when Josh is playing well, it'll still be Josh Giddey. And at that point, what do you do? So what do you make of Josh Giddey in the postseason and in this series?
Well, I think you laid it out really well, that both things can be true. He can be playing well, and he can also be played off the floor, basically, because I thought the Pelicans did the Thunder a favor a little bit by not trying those cross matches and just leaving Giddey alone. Now, Giddey obviously ended the series on a high note, and I think like with him, confidence is key, and just that does more for him than just about anything. Now in this Mavs series, it's a totally different animal as far as how the bigs are matched up. You've got Valanciunas, who's not a rim protector at all with New Orleans, and now with Dallas, you have Derek Lively, you've got Daniel Gafford, and if I'm them, I'm putting them on Giddey. I'm having them hang out in the restricted area, and those guys both have shot blocking capabilities, more length than Valanciunas did, and I think we're going to see a lot of that from Dallas.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Dallas specifically handles Josh and handles the Thunder, because again, you have to just give something up in the NBA, as Mark always says. And for the Thunder, you're typically going to focus more on J-Dub and Chet and SGA, of course. There's other storylines to follow in round two, one of them being Gordon Hayward. I think that SGA is a storyline to follow in round two. We'll get into that coming up. Joey, it's time now to talk about our good friends over at eBay Motors. The Thunder are trying to go win a championship, Joe. They are. They're trying right now. And eBay Motors is also trying to win you a championship, because they understand that passion, drive, patience, that's the formula for winning a trophy and keeping your ride or die alive. Cars, Larry O'Brien's, one and the same. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performances, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from, your number one ride or die, you'll always have exactly what you're looking for with the eBay's Guaranteed Fit. It's the guarantee to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're going to be burning rubber, not cash. Check it out today with all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to keep your car alive and make it the MVP and bring home a huge win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit, only available for U.S. customers. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast, on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day. Here with Joe Mado, the columnist over at the Oklahoman, Dream Team podcaster extraordinaire, former Thunder beat writer. Got out at the wrong time, some say, but of course.
some say. Some do say that.
Of course, happy to be a columnist and just getting your pulse on everything in the world. Great job in your first year as a columnist.
Thank you, Rylan.
You are still invited to our end of the season, whenever it happens, trip to that barbecue spot that we like after the season. Just so you know,
our annual tradition, about to enter its second year.
Yeah, now it is going to be that was inaugural last year. Now it's whatever this next one is.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully we get to like a bicentennial one day, God willing. But Joe, when I look at round two, I think that there's two big storylines to dive into. First one is simple, and it's SGA. I think that SGA's life gets a lot easier in round two against Dallas, and I think that you're going to see a scoring uptick. What do you make of Shai's first round, and what do you make of what we can see in round two?
Well, I agree with you. I think the Pelicans have a ton of length. I thought Herb Jones, I thought Najee Marshall, Trey Murphy at times, they can just throw big bodies at him that are quick as well. And, those are the types of defenders that can bother Shai and just get in his airspace. And and the Mavericks just don't have that kind of defensive firepower. Like, I don't like is Derek Jones Jr. the starting option against him? Is that what you're thinking?
I would very much assume it's going to be DJJ.
Yeah, which good player, but he's not on Herb Jones's all defensive team level.
Although Brad Townsend tried to vote for him for all defensive team, but he was not eligible. He's played the right number of games at 65, but the percentage of games he has not hit. So yeah. But anyway, yeah, he's not an all defensive level defender like Herb. So I do think that Shai will have a better offensive series, especially just in terms of statistics.
Also, he didn't. I know the 3-pointer is not a huge part of his game. He did not shoot it well from 3. So even if that returns to his norm, that's going to tick up a little bit. And I also think this is still a new spot for Shai. Now, the way he gets defended in the playoffs, I think he is used to that from the regular season with how much attention is on him. But just the pacing of the playoffs, everything like that. He's a new father. That would probably
little dad strength, Fred VanVleet and them boys.
I mean, I don't know if it's dad strength. I mean, whatever. I know we say that, but it's like there's stuff going on. He's being pulled in different directions. But yeah, I would expect Shai to be a little better. Not saying he was bad, but I think that was not the best of Shai that we saw. I also think, even though they're not going to be guarding each other all that much, the Shai versus Luka, we're going to be talking a lot about it, and that's probably going to motivate both guys.
I'm all in on this rivalry becoming a thing, and I think that when you look at this, it just makes sense. Like this Dallas fan base is a feisty one. They tried to start a rivalry with the Phoenix Suns. Like they already don't like Shai. Thunder fans already don't like Luka, and you have the just natural born Okies don't like Texans, and that's just clear as day. Tale as old as time, Joe. A song as old as rhyme.
And the Okies are the little brothers to the Texans.
Okay, well, we just got canceled. Thanks, Joe.
No, I'm just saying that's from their perspective, from the Texans
from their perspective. Yeah, okay,
perspective.
Good. Yeah, not from the perspective of Okies from Muskogee. I'll tell you that for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we sidestepped that one because we the pitchforks were out for you, Joe, and I wasn't going to save you on this one. I'll save you from a lot of things. I'll dive in front of a lot of grenades for Joe Mado.
To be clear to everyone, I am pretty anti-Texas. They're a little too proud for my liking down there south of the Red River. I'm just saying I happen to be married to a woman who is from Texas, and
hails from Texas gal.
Hails from Texas gal. And sometimes I think Oklahoma is like their little brother up there. That's all I was saying, folks.
Trying to win them back now.
Trying to be like Michael Cage here.
All the best to your woman, Joe, your lovely bride and beloved. I think that she's now indoctrinated into Oklahoman culture, and she's
that's probably true.
So she's an honorary Oklahoman. But I think that with this rivalry, you have the natural just state rivalry that is just heated, and one of the most heated state rivalries there is. Oklahoma, Texas. Kansas, Missouri, those are like some ones that jump out to you.
Are you a Missouri guy?
I don't like the state of Missouri. It's a big deal.
But you say Missouri. You don't say Missouri.
Yeah, it's more of a disrespect to Missouri.
Oh,
and it is
I didn't know if that was like the Latonian coming out. Latinite.
No, you had it right the first time. Latonians. No, there are a few Latonians who unironically say Missouri. Which might be where I picked it up from. But nonetheless, back to the point. The rivalry of the two states, these two fan bases now, both internationally with the Slovenian crowd and locally, don't like the opposition superstar. And an underrated part of the rivalry is, I think what stopped this from being spurred on further has been, one, when the Thunder got good quickly, as soon as they got to Oklahoma City, there was a large pocket of like people who followed the NBA that were Mavs fans because the Mavs were just the team that was closest for the longest time. And maybe you gave that side of you up to root for your home state team, our first ever professional team here in Oklahoma, but you also didn't hate them because you grew up, really rooting for them. And then 2, no one in the world could hate Dirk. Like even Mavs and even Heat fans who went to war against Dirk twice and including getting the best ring of all time, beating the Heatles. Even they cannot hate Dirk. Like he has nothing hateable on or off the court. Whereas Luka, if he's not on your team, he really grinds your gears. So I do think that this rivalry will be what the NBA is looking for, and I think that this rivalry with 2 really marketable guys will become a fixture of the schedule moving forward for the NBA and for what their catered events are toward.
Yeah, and we've seen these teams match up in the playoff series before, but the timelines haven't exactly matched up like they could now. And I'm with you. I think that does play a part in it. I watched a lot of Mavs games growing up just because that was what was on Fox Sports Southwest or whatever it was called back in the day. I was a fan of the role players like Jerry Stackhouse and
Jerry Stackhouse and them boys, Michael Finley, Josh Howard, and Eric Dampierre.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't just Dirk. But no, I think from a superstar side, from a geographic standpoint, it could be such a fun series. And listen, everyone outside of Dallas, I think for the most part dislikes Luka, even though I respect the heck out of his game. Everyone does. Everyone knows how great he is. He just really, you said grind your gears. My gears have been grinded, whatever tense. They are dull because it gets old. It gets old. And we're about to see it maybe for a 7-game series.
Maybe for a 7-game series. Maybe. One more storyline, and then I want your prediction on that.
Oh, boy.
Gordon Hayward, Joe.
Gordon
Hayward. Our guy. And this might surprise you as someone who has heard impassioned rants by me about Gordon Hayward on the Dream Team podcast on Patreon.
Oh, that was a great rant.
That was a great rant, I believe. I rarely rant, but a rare rant by me.
You're a rare ranter.
Yeah, I rarely do rant. But I think that the answer for Gordon Hayward is actually not playing him 0 minutes, Joe. I think that the answer is what Mark did in Game 4. We're sure, put him out there as one of your first guys off the bench, but he plays 4 total minutes because he is completely confused offensively, does not have the same gel, does not look comfortable, and just is not a plus for you offensively, which is frustrating, I think, for everyone involved because he's picked up everything else. He's picked up the defense. He's helped you rebound. The one thing you thought was going to be a staple of his game and has been a staple of his game for the last 13 years has gone the way of the Staples office store. It's just gone. It's no longer around. But I think that the answer would be to still play him in that spot, but just pull back the minutes if he continues to not have it. And of course, allot them, in my opinion, to Aaron Wiggins. What do you think has to happen as these games get tighter, as these series get longer, as you play against a formidable opponent in either Dallas or LA? What has to happen with Gordon Hayward's rotational minutes?
Well, I always have to preface this, and I think I did this last time I was on with you, that who am I to argue against the coach of the year and a guy who knows more about basketball than I do, and Mark Daigneault. I continue just to be flummoxed by every Gordon Hayward minute, and there weren't a lot of them, but the guy took one shot the whole series. Gordon Hayward did, and it's he gets the ball, he puts it on the deck, maybe one bounce, and then he kicks it back out. There's it's like there's not even a glance at the rim, and I don't know. Yeah, he has been a little bit better on the defensive end. I would much rather see those minutes, what few of them are, go to Aaron Wiggins, go to Kenrich Williams. I feel more comfortable on the floor with Kenrich Williams than I do Gordon Hayward because, at least Kenrich is going to be willing to knock down or at least attempt an open 3. And I just think he gives you that edge, a guy to just knock Luka off his spot, stand over him a little bit. Yeah, sure, he might get called for a technical, but kind of a tone setter in this series in ways that Gordon Hayward is not going to do that at all. So yeah, I'll tell you what, Gordon Hayward's been remarkably consistent though, because what we saw in the regular season has carried over into the playoffs.
Everything about Gordon Hayward has been consistent, that's for sure, especially getting matched up with Jose Alvarado and not even trying to score over him. And I think that Joe deserved a... Well, anyway, Joe.
Was I supposed to do something there?
Well, you're supposed to hear something. I don't know if you were able to hear it.
Oh yeah, I got it.
Yeah, there we
go.
There you go. Anyway, Joe, we've really gone off the rails here. Two more things. Number one,
I think we're securely on the rails.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. That makes me feel better. Number one, when the season ends, I want to take your Texan beloved and you, not just her, you as well, down to Lawton.
I think the rails have been deserted.
Down to Lawton and give you guys a tour of the shady 580 and what makes Oklahoma so great. But number two, Joe, because you've already agreed to that.
I thought you were reading like a Lawton ad read just then.
Well, Medicine Park is a great place.
Okay. What's the second question for me?
Number two is on the record, Joe. Again, we're gonna have to redo this if it's not the Mavericks, but Thunder Mavs. Who you got? How many games?
Thunder in 7.
Wow, Thunder in 7, home court advantage.
What a fun series that would be.
It'd be great. It'd be great. And you and I would be bussing back and forth between each venue.
Yeah. What do you give your prediction here? Or are you saving that for a later date?
I mean, I'll give my prediction if you want to hear it, Joey. I mean, I know we're just paying you to have to listen to another Locked On Thunder show to get my prediction.
No, I just know that sometimes you're in the driver's seat. This is your pod. I'm in your territory, but I want to hear your opinion.
Well, Joe, my opinion is that the Thunder will win in 7. I think that they...
I thought you were about to say like 5 or something.
No, I think that they, are capable of winning in 6. But just for the home court aspect of it, I'll say 7, and they go the distance. I will be curious what happens, and of course on Friday, because I think that there's a chance that the Mavericks win, but anything can happen in a game where Luka, you might win, but Luka might end up furthering, putting miles on that knee, which then you go into Tuesday, then you go into the rest of the series. Because I don't believe that the Thunder and Mavs will, once they get to the series, have that much time off because the travel is so light. And they're already trying to stagger the Nuggets and Wolves second round series. So
yeah, I think we'd be looking at a game every 2 days, basically.
Yeah, and so I just think that the Mavericks have to have a delicate balance of winning the game Friday, getting that time off, and also winning that game Friday and making sure Luka's okay. But nonetheless, Thunder in 7. I think that the home court at the end, Shai makes a huge play. The Thunder move on to the conference finals, just as you and I both predicted before the ball was ever tipped, and here we ever were in the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, before the ball was ever tipped in the playoffs. Let me just say that, because I did not predict this preseason. Nor did anyone, I don't think.
Nor did anyone. And every time you say that, there's people in the comments going, well, I was texting my buddy that we were going to be in the conference finals. Okay, sure. Yeah, that's fine. No one on the record publicly that had something at stake in terms of credibility or anything like predicted this.
Yeah,
what was your preseason prediction, Joe?
I mean, my preseason prediction was 42-40, and I thought they'd be back in the play-in. I know. It's bad. It's bad. I thought the best case scenario, I wrote something about this. I was like, the best case scenario is they get out of the play-in and get a top 6 seed. And here they are as the number 1 seed, having just swept their first round opponent. And if you're wondering, wow, does this guy really get paid to do this? Somehow I'm still employed and lucky enough to be on this great podcast.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. I think that you and I are aligned in that we did best, worst, and most likely case scenarios for the preseason
record prediction.
Well, okay. I actually didn't do a full record
gosh.
prediction. What I did was I said that the best case scenario was, hey, maybe because they're going to take the regular season more seriously than everybody else, they can be like a 4 seed. Like best case scenario, everything breaks their way. I said that the most likely case scenario was going to be that they might be a top 6 seed because again, the regular season being so serious. And then I thought that the floor of this team was like a 10th seed. So that was a wide range of predictions. I officially fell on like being in the 6th seed, which is not what they ended up doing. They ended up winning 57 games and going to the first overall seed in the West as the youngest number 1 seed. Joe, you're the youngest columnist to ever do it, I believe. And if that's not true, I'm just gonna go with it anyway. I cannot wait. No pressure on you and your beloved for you to get the first column out after the birth of your child, whatever that eventually happens.
Oh
and you get that dad strength into your pin. That'll be sick.
That will be sick. I'll see you in Medicine Park.
Oh, Medicine Park, Joe. Joe, let me tell you something. I take you out to Mount Scott. I take you out to Medicine Park. You'll be feeling the dad strength.
That sounds so romantic. Me, my wife, and you just looking out over
I'm telling you, Joe. There's a lot of people who would love to take me up on that offer, and I'm offering it to you. This is a big deal. Joe, it was almost my mission at the end to take it off the rails, and I think that we did it after being on the rails for a long time. But
this was fun, man. I appreciate it.
This was a lot of fun. Check out the Oklahoman for Joe Mado and everyone else on their great staff. Check out Joe Mado on Twitter at Joe_Mado and Thunder After Dark, Thunder Dream Team on Patreon. Until next time, be good and be good to one.